again, friends. Hope you all are doing well. We are back with another song breakdown. We are looking tonight at the song For the Gold by Pearl Sugar. Pearl Sugar is Chris Bugnacki, and he's from here in Connecticut, and I've actually known Chris for a long time. I recorded Chris's older band, I Am Clay, and did an album and then another single with those guys. And one of the first things I remember about Chris, he was really young, maybe 16, 17. And just remember being kind of awestruck by the maturity in his songwriting and with his lyrics and sense of melody and even sense of being able to arrange songs for someone that age was really amazing. And so when I found out that he was doing some solo songs a couple of years back, I remember badgering him for for quite a while to be a part of it. And he finally agreed, and we got to work on these songs that would make up his first EP together. And every artist needs different things when it comes to a producer role. Some people really need help when it comes to finalizing song arrangements. Some people need help when it comes to fleshing out the instrumentation and helping put the music together in the studio. Some people need help with lyrics. Some people just need a boost of confidence. Chris is unique in that he really doesn't need any of that. He's very incredibly self-contained and self-sufficient as an artist. And I mean, he can write, he can record, he can produce himself, he can arrange. And so really the only thing that I did, I feel like I didn't really do that much. I feel like my job was just to not screw things up and to record things as well as I could, to really honor the awesome songs that he had written. And he does a lot of work in Logic, and so he would come to me with things written. We would bounce tracks down and we would recut usually a couple things here at my studio. We'd usually redo the bass, the guitar, the vocals, finalize the keys. Some keys we recorded here. I'll talk about the main keyboard that we used, but the whole song was already there. It was just kind of finalizing the sounds. And one of the things I appreciate about Chris is he's incredibly specific about what he wants, which is super helpful. And once he gets what he wants, he doesn't really second guess himself. And so it was a lot of fun to work in these songs. I'm going to play the beginning of this song, and then we'll talk about it.
I've been choking on the bone. I've been choking on some big bones. Does anybody know that I am dying real slow?
All right, cool. So the intro of the song has there's a lot of cool stuff in this song that I'll break down for you guys. So the beginning here, you can see this. Here are keys tracks, and there's this sound here. I'll solo it. And the way that we got that, I have a Memory Man deluxe pedal. It's my delay pedal, and we got that sound from I had Chris play something, and then I was just kind of oscillating the feedback up super high, and then just kind of playing with the pedal to get that. If you turn the feedback super high and then you mess with the delay time, you get these kind of oscillating feedback delay sounds. And so that's what this is. I'll play it again. And I thought it was a really cool way to start the song, and then I'm just filtering out a bunch of the low end. And so that's how we got that intro sound. And then the beginning of the song is just Chris's vocal, which is double tracked, and then this synth. So that beautiful sound comes from the DX7. So the DX7 is a synth that was made in the 80s, and I believe it's Yamaha made it. Is that right? Yeah, I have one right over here that I actually bought from Chris after making the EP. And the funny thing about the DX7 is objectively, it's 95% of the sounds are terrible. They're just not pleasing or good. But it was really popular in the 80s when it first came out. In fact, I saw a video of Queen in the studio, and Brian May's got the DX7 up on the console, and he's playing the string sound on it for one of their songs. You can go on YouTube and watch it. But there's like two sounds on this synth that sound amazing, and really the core of the EP was built around this electric piano sound that came from the DX7, and this in the beginning, this is the DX7, that electric piano sound. It's just a great sound. I love it. And so that's from the DX7. We used it a bunch on this song in particular. And so all the way through the song, the main keyboard part that you're hearing is the DX7, and we tracked it. We tracked it mono. And so I did have some on the album that I made stereo with effects, but the majority of the DX7 tracks are mono. And then what I would do is I would send them out to some stereo effects. So the two effects that I put on the keyboard, one is this guy here, Microshift from Sound Toys, and it's just on an aux, and so the mix is 100% wet. The focus is around kind of 300 hertz, and then you can mess around with the detune and the delay and the style to get a really kind of cool, unique sound. And so that's what it sounds like with the pitch shift. And then I also put a delay on it, which is my favorite, Echo Boy. And this is just like a tape slap, 30 ips tape echo, again, all the way wet on a quarter note, doing a little bit of filtering on the delay. That's pretty normal for me. Filter out a little bit of the lows, a little bit of the highs. And then I love this saturation knob. It's on the Benson. And so with the delay and with the pitch shift, it sounds like this. You can hear, I love the modulation that you can get on the DX7. And so those are the effects, and then a little bit of compression just to keep things even. A couple dB. Good old Massey CT5. And so that's the main keyboard sound, is the DX7 with a little bit of pitch shift, a little bit of delay. And then Chris's vocal. So let's go to Chris's vocal. I love his vocal at the beginning of the song. And the way that we tracked his vocal, we talked a lot about the sound that we wanted to have for his vocals on these songs. And the way that we did it was everything was double tracked. And I think the only exception is this intro, but every other song and every other part was double tracked. And there was the main vocal, which had some stuff on it, but the doubled vocal, what we would do is we would send a ton of it to effects and send it pre-fader, and then the actual volume of the double itself, the dry volume, would be super low. And so let me go to verse 2 and you can really hear this in action. And so this is the single vocal.
Smack me on the back. Give me a heart attack.
And then this is the double. This is what the double sounds like.
Smack me on.
Oh, here, let me put the, there we go. Here's with the reverb.
Smack me on the back. Give me a heart attack.
And so those are doubled. That's not, I didn't copy and paste that. Those were doubled vocals, and it's sending it to a lot of the reverb. And so together it sounds like this.
Smack me on the back. Give me a heart attack.
So the reason that we doubled the vocals rather than just copy and pasting it is there's a cool like natural chorusing that happens when you double your own vocal, and you have to be good at tracking to yourself. And you can see here Chris is incredibly tight with his own vocal. I mean, they line up really, really well. And so he sang everything twice. We used this one as the main vocal, and then the double we sent to the reverb. And that was the main sound for his vocals on the EP, and we just kind of alternated volumes. And the reverb that we used is this guy. This is probably my favorite reverb. It's like $50, and it's on a Hall. Again, 4 seconds of decay, some pre-delay, cutting everything above 8K, and this is just an amazing sounding reverb. I use this probably more than any other reverb. And then after, I'm filtering. And so what I did is I'm EQing the reverb, and I was listening to little things in the reverb that I didn't like. And so here you can hear what this sounds like. It's like a weird resonance here, and I'm guessing, yeah, with 3K it's the same thing. And so I'm softening the reverb by taking out some kind of peaky frequencies. And so that's the main effect on the vocal, is this reverb, and it's really high in the double, and there's a little bit on there on the main one, but not nearly as much as the double. So here again is the intro, which I don't think the double is in yet.
I've been choking on the bone. I've been choking on some big.
Okay, yeah, the double is in. There's just no dry volume. The dry gets added in on verse 2. And so that's the intro. Let's just listen through it.
That I am dying real slow.
All right, and then the band hits in. We'll just listen to this section, then we'll talk about it. Okay. So what is being added in here? And so what is being added is there's another keys track from the DX7 that is doing the lead line. And that sounds like this. It's actually, this could have been a Roland sound. It sounds more like a Roland, like a Juno that Chris had. I told him to buy this plugin, which we used a lot. It's the Tal, the Uno LX, and it could have been that. It sounds more like that to me. And so this is probably a Juno lead that we tracked, and then I'm just compressing it a little bit. And that is being sent to a lot of pitch shift. This is with it. So this is it dry. And then with the effects. Yeah, I love what the pitch shift does to the width of especially mono. If you don't want to make something stereo, the track itself, you can send it to a stereo effect and it has a lot of the same effect. And then the drums. So here are the drums soloed. Now, some of these were samples that Chris had. Some of them were ones that I had. There are two sources on the kick drum. Here's the kick. And we have this kick here. And then this Ludwig. And so this one obviously has, more of that kind of throwback, kind of Lindrum-esque vibe to it. But I wanted some more of a different kick sound to mix in with it. And so this is mono. There's a little bit more stereo, and you can see the level is way down. And on the kick, we're just doing a little bit of tape. Pulling out a little bit of 2.5K. And then throwing it through an SSL, drive all the way up, and then a little bit of compression. Yep, 4 or 5 dBs of compression. And then on the second kick sample, I am boosting the low end, around 40 hertz, saturation knob, and some limiting on both of those. And so that is the kick sound, and it doesn't really change throughout any of the song. It stays pretty steady. I don't even think I'm doing much volume automation on that. It was, I like the sound. Didn't really see any need to change it. And then on the snare, I should also say that a big part of the sound was the drum reverb, which are kind of doing like the gated verb thing. And again, using Valhalla Vintage Verb on one of their gated snare presets that I liked. And I'm filtering out a lot here. And mix about 32%. And then I am compressing the reverb. And then again, cutting out some of that high mid-range. And so and it's going to both, there's a similar thing on the kick and the snare. So without the reverb, here's what the kick sounds like. I'm sorry, without it, it's like this. Yeah, no ambience to it with the verb. Yeah, so it's just giving some length to it. And then on the snare, this is the snare sample. And I'm doing a similar thing on the snare, a little bit more of a mix, opening up the EQ and a little bit of pre-delay. Without the verb, it sounds like this. Yeah, that's definitely a Lindrum thing. Not much length to it. You can see the sample itself is really short, and so this lengthened the snare. And again, samples going through tape, console, some compression, and then a little bit of trim. And so together, the kick and the snare, which is really kind of the main focus of the rhythm section with everything on it, is like this. So that is pretty steady throughout the majority of the song. It's just that one snare sample, the 2 kick samples, and then we have a hat sample, which I'm just filtering out Hi-hats, you really don't need very much below 2 or 300. There's not much going on there. And the snare, or the hat, sounds like this. And that's going directly, the output of that is going directly to the drum reverb, because I wanted some of the reverb on that. And so the three things together, kick, snare, and hat, sound like this. And the thing that we were really going for was like that, the drum sampler, drum machine, which doesn't have really any dynamics. It's not obviously like a real person playing drums, and we didn't really want that feel. And so that's the majority of the drum sound, were those three elements, the kick, snare, and the hat. There were other things that came in. Let's go to some of the other drum elements. So here on verse 3, we have a ride that comes in. Yep. And it's just a... And then there's also some percussion that we added. There is a shaker, a tambourine. I'm going to take this out just so we don't hear the vocal. So there's a shaker, tambourine, that comes in on verse 3 here. And then we have little things that happen at one point during the outro of the song. We have these things that come in. Yeah, the chime, the finger cymbal. So that's pretty much it with the drums. The only other thing is there is some tom fills that are happening. They're called Linn toms, and I am triggering them from a Kontakt library, vintage drums. It's just called LinnDrum Kit, and that sounds like this. So we're doing some stuff to that. So first of all, I'm limiting that, cutting out some of the high end, and then there's some effects on it. There is an eighth note delay and some verb. Without both of those, it sounds like this. Add in the delay. And add in the verb. So I'll play the section where that comes in. I'll play it. Here are the drums leading in. So it's just a lead in going into the last verse, and then again going into the outro. Kind of a different sound again. So yeah, there's just 3 little tom samples there, and we really liked how those toms sounded just from this vintage drum LinnDrum kit. And so that's pretty much the drums. There's really not too much going on there. I mean, the big thing with the drums is getting the reverb right, and with kind of the gated sound, and making sure that that was given the right kind of vibe that we were looking for. There's 3 little samples here. Let's see what these sound like. They only come in at one point in the song. So there's this, this, and this. Yeah, and it's right at the top of verse 2. You can hear that here.
Smack me on the back.
Yeah, and I think I added that, the line "smack me on the back." I wanted something that was like an actual like representation of the lyric, and so I kind of liked throwing that in there. And so let's go to the bass. The bass was a P bass with flat wounds that I mentioned before on my Frozen Ocean video. And Chris played the bass on this. And here is the original track. And on it, you can see here, it's kind of, we were having some noise. And then we were doing, some of these plugins aren't going to show up. But we were doing basically some EQ and compression. A little bit more compression here with the LA2A. Very common for me to use the C4 to control the low end. With usually, if you play the same note on a bass on the A string, lower on the A string and higher on the E string, there will be always a ton more bass on the E string, and so those are always going to jump out more for whatever reason. And then some limiting, and so I think I printed that into this final track here. And the only effect on the bass, which I like to do a lot, is I send it to the pitch shift. And let me play that. Without the pitch shift. So it's cool. The pitch shift adds a lot of width to the bass. So here it is again. And then with the drums. I remember when I heard that with the keyboard, I told Chris it reminded me of a middle school dance from 1985. So... Which, who knows, maybe he was offended by that. Chris, if you're watching this, I did not mean that in any kind of derogatory way. It was actually a big compliment. But that's when I heard this intro after the vocals, that's all that I could think of. Love it. Love it. All right. So when we actually get into the song, there's some cool things that are happening. Verse 2, this is from the DX7. We have this guy. So yeah, we're using the same electric piano sound, and Chris is just doing like a harmony to the main lead. And here in the end, it comes in again. Yep, and then we have this Juno lead. So this is this guy. This thing is amazing. If you like the sound of the Juno 60, you have to buy this. They do a fantastic job with emulating it. And this is one of the main synths that we used on this EP. So here's the lead. And the only thing I'm putting on there is, again, more of the vintage verb. This is what it sounds like dry. It's cool, a little boring, and so with the reverb. And the thing that I'm doing here, you can see cranking up the mod, the rate, and the depth, and you can hear it on the tail of the lead. And I'm using the chorus space, which obviously, you know, the chorus is going to have more modulation to it. And so together, these two keys parts sound like this. And so that comes in just at this point here on verse 2. And when the bass comes back around, at the end of verse 2. There's this little Juno lead. And so next we have this string sound. Let's see what that is. That's cool. I'm not exactly sure what that is from. I think that may be from Omnisphere. We did use Omnisphere a few times. That could be an Omnisphere sound. And so denoising, a little bit of the Bomb Factory 1176. Ooh, this guy. This thing is cool. So Valhalla makes this plugin called the Space Modulator, and you get some crazy, crazy sounds from it. But the chorus sounds sound fantastic. And so without it, sound like this. It's cool, but again with the space modulator, you see it spreads it out wide. And I'm just using this preset called Wide Chorus, which I just loved how that sounded. And then a little bit of the Clairphonic, adding a bunch of high-end shimmer and some of the Focus Band. This is when I had the first instance of the plugin. They came out with a version 2 that I use all the time. And so that's only in the midsection of this song. And I think I felt like it needed something in this little middle section here that wasn't percussive. It was just sustaining throughout the song. And so without it, let's listen to what it sounds like without it. And then we'll listen to it in. Yeah, it's not doing much, but it's filling in all the gaps where there's a lot of kind of percussive things going on, and there's not a lot of things that are just kind of sitting underneath the surface. And so that's what this was doing. And then we have these keyboards here. So this is called Paul Synth. Let's listen to that. All right, I know why I named it Paul Synth. So I named it Paul Synth because it reminded me of the Paul McCartney Christmas song that I absolutely hate. And I can't remember the title of it, but if you've heard that song and you've heard this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And this is probably from the DX7, but it was perfect in this last, like 30-40% of the song. We needed something, and we were kind of messing around with the DX7, and Chris kind of played the rhythm, and I listened to it, and we both thought just, yeah, that's perfect. And so there's a little bit of Echo Boy Jr., just a little bit of, let's see what this guy is doing. This is without it. With it. Yeah. It's subtle, a little bit of saturation on a tape setting, just adding a little bit more character to it. And then, so that goes from the last verse through the end of the song. And then there's this guy, the Juno end lead. So when everything opens up towards the end of the song, we wanted a similar Juno lead sound, but something that had a little bit more of like a spacious sound to it. And so that's this. Let's listen to this. Yeah. So back to this, and basically we just opened up the frequency on it, and you can listen to how amazing this filter is. Listen to this. Yeah, love that. And you can see both of the chorus buttons are pressed in here. And on this end lead, we have more of the vintage verb on the chorus space, 4 seconds, more than half mix. The H delay, which I love. Let's see what it sounds like without these two. Oh, it's also adding a little bit of level. So this is probably, I was probably taking the level down. Yeah, I was taking the output down here. So this is with the effects. It's also taking some of the high end out, which is good because that's a little piercing. And then this guy just spreading out the width a little bit. And so at the end of the song here, it kind of starts to really open up. And there's not a ton of like super high frequency content in the song so far. And I wanted to reserve a lot of that for the end. And so let's listen to just this section from verse 3.
I'm going for the gold. I'm squinting through the smoke.
Here's the strings.
Please don't cast me out. I need you more than you know.
And the outro here. Cool. So let's go to the vocals. The vocals on the end of the song are really great. So there is a couple of things going on. There's a whistle track, which is Chris. Yep, and then we have these oohs. Well, let's add the reverb in there. So here's the whistle and the oohs. And that goes all the way through the song. And then the last thing are the guitars. So the guitars, there are 3 tracks. And with the guitars, I did some of them and Chris did some of them. So we kind of went back and forth. If he had an idea, he would track it. If I had an idea, I would track it. And so this first guitar that comes in, let's listen to this. Yeah, it's just doubling the lead. And at the time I was using S-Gear, the Scuffum amps, which sounded really cool, but I don't have that plugin anymore. And so I threw in this Fender from Amplitude. This is a deluxe reverb, and it sounded almost identical to what I was using. And the guitars on this album were almost always a Strat, either mine or Chris's, into a Fender style amp. And so here, this is what the amp sound was from the plugin. So we're using some of the onboard reverb and a little bit of the tremolo, which sounded great. And then I'm adding, after the fact, some compression. And I'm adding again more tremolo, which is the Soundtoys Tremolator, which sounded like this. Just adding more kind of movement to the sound. And then this guy, which I love, this is, I think, an Avid plugin. It's been around for a long, long time, based off of the Memory Man. I think it sounds great. And so this is adding some more delay. Sounds like this. And it's a fast delay. You can hear it. This is all the way wet. And I wanted a little bit of kind of that slap sound. And this sounds great. If you crank the input on it, it sounds really, really cool. And so that was guitar 1. And there was a little bit of kind of chucks that he was doing here. Yep. Which is cool. So the second guitar is just doing chords. It sounds like this. It's definitely, again, that's my Strat, using a little bit of the whammy bar, and the amp is just this stock Amplitube amp, which sounded great. And I just threw it on there since I didn't have the original Esky one, and thought it sounded really good. And I haven't used it very much, and I wonder why. I'll probably use that more. And then again, more of the vintage verb on there on the chorus space. And then here on the outro, the part I'm playing is just a little bit different. Yeah, just going between the 4 and the 5 chord. And then the last guitar part is this guy in the bottom here, which is just on the end. And so again, I wanted some more kind of sparkly, shimmery thing going on. And so it is, this is the part dry. Just a higher end version of the 4 and 5, but this guy. So this is the Valhalla Shimmer, which is obviously a shimmer reverb, which is, I believe, all that a shimmer reverb is a pitched, like an octave reverb. And so it's all the way wet, mix 100%, and it sounds like this. Yeah, so all 3 parts together in the end here. Yeah, so that's all the guitars, only 3 parts. And that is really the song. There's really not a ton of tracks. There's a harmony that comes in on verse 3. I'll solo those vocals so you can hear them.
I'm going for the gold. I'm squinting through the smoke.
Let me take off the effects so we can hear. There's some cool things going on here. So you have the main 2 parts here, and then you have this harmony.
I'm going for the gold.
This one.
I'm going for the gold.
One more.
I'm going for the gold.
Those harmonies sound like this.
I'm going for the gold. I'm squinting through the smoke. Please don't cast me out. I need you more than you know.
That's all Chris. But I did one thing that was really cool is on this delay throw track, I put on a like a full note delay, and then I threw it through this old Waves plugin, which is kind of like the vocoder talkbox kind of thing. And so this is what this sounded like. And then again here. And so you can hear it I'll play it all the vocals together. You can hear it in the spaces.
I'm going for the gold. I'm squinting through the smoke.
And it comes in again here.
Please don't cast me out.
So in the track, this is what it sounds like with everything.
I'm going for the gold. I'm squinting through the smoke. Please don't cast me out. I need you more than you know.
All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that. Have a great evening.
I'm going for the gold. I'm squinting through the smoke.